Hello everybody, Benjamin Magnus here, aka the Dapper Gamer, and I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. I had a request from a viewer asking if I could show him how to do maneuvers in this game, how they work and what they're good for, and I thought that was a great idea. So today I'm going to have a little instructional video on how maneuvers work. Here I am already in orbit around Kerbin. I did just build myself a very basic spacecraft and put it in a very basic ship in Kerbin. It doesn't need to do anything because all we're going to do is use it to show you how maneuvers work. And I figured the best way to do that is to show you how to plot a maneuver to the moon and then how to plot a maneuver to Minmus right over here. So let's get started. We're going to start off with the moon, and what you need to do first is set a target. Now you don't need to set a target to do a maneuver. You can just add in a maneuver whenever you want and bam. But if you set your target as something, it'll give you some additional information that'll really help you out. So what I'm going to do is just, if you click basically anywhere on your current orbit, which is the blue line, you'll get the add maneuver thing here. And the T-minus 28 minutes 32 seconds is how long it's going to be till you get there. You don't ever want to put in a maneuver like right here, because you're not going to have enough time to set up the maneuver before you get to it. So always give yourself a nice wide berth. So we're going to add in a maneuver, and what you see here is these 6 little indicators, and what we're going to work with this time are these 2 green ones right now. Now those do look familiar because you'll see them on your, I want to call this a gyroscope down here, but I don't know if that's the correct term. That is the prograde indicator, and if we turn around here, the other side is the retrograde indicator. So if you play this game a little, you'll know that that is more speed and less speed, because that is the direction of travel and opposite of the direction of travel. So what we're going to do is use the prograde indicator here, and we're going to drag it out, and that is going to indicate that we want more speed. And you can see it'll drag out this dotted line. Now the dotted line, the orange dotted line, is going to be your projected course if you do this maneuver. And if we want to get to the moon, you can see we're going to need to try to get a little bit further out, so let's add in a little bit more speed using the prograde indicator like this. And there we go. Now you can see that this orbit is going to intersect the orbit of the moon, but it's not giving me an indication that I have a good intercept, and that's because this is where I'm going to be, and this is where the moon is going to be at our closest approach, and they're really far away. So what we need to do is try to get these 2 indicators to get close together, and that'll give us a moon intercept. And it's very simple. I did not know you could do this for the longest time, but if you grab the center circle of your maneuver and left click and drag, hold left click, you will change the position of where you are going to initiate your maneuver. And that is just so helpful, because before what I used to do is I would cancel it and I'd start a new one I'd start a new one a little way down the line, and oh, that's not good either, so I'd cancel it and start a new one. No, you don't need to do that. You can just add in a maneuver, and we don't need that much speed. We just need to basically get to there. Add a maneuver, click and drag, and as you can see, those closest approach little indicators there are getting closer and closer together, and there it is. That's not a great one. Let's drag it a little bit further out. That is a very good moon intercept. Now the screen gets a little crazy because it's got different colored lines and whatnot. I'll just show you what those are really quick. So the orange one we just said is the projected course. At this point right here, that's when the moon's gravity is going to start affecting us. That's when the moon's gravity is going to stop affecting us, and the green line is going to be our course after we escape the moon's gravity. So if we wanted to get a moon orbit, we would need to do another maneuver up here. But that is outside of the scope of what I'm trying to show you right now. I'm just trying to show you how this stuff works. And that is how we used the indicators here to plot ourselves a moon intercept. And as you can see, I could still change this. But basically, you want to get where you're trying to go with using the smallest amount of speed as possible, because that will be most efficient in terms of fuel consumption. Now I am actually going to do this maneuver so I could show you a couple other things, mainly what's going on down here. So what we're going to do is take a look at this guy right here, node in T-minus 30 minutes. That's just how long it'll take before we get to our node. Here we are, we're almost to our node, and the last thing I have to do is just find my indicator. The blue indicator is the direction you need to be pointing to accurately mimic the projected course. So we found the blue indicator, we're going to get it to T-0, and we're going to just crank up our engines. And now what you're going to see is this bar start to drop. And this indicates how much speed you need to change, how much your speed needs to change to do what the maneuver is suggesting. So I need about 600 more meters per second in speed before I will get to this projected course right here. Okay, we're almost there, and when I get close, I like to try to cut my engines down a little bit because I don't want to overshoot. You never want to overshoot because that could cause you problems. So what we're going to try to do is try to get this number as close as we can to 0, and that'll give us the closest approximation as we can get to the projected maneuver here. So we're at 18, 10. All right, there we go. When you get this little check, that means you're really close. And we just need a little bit more and a little bit more. Kind of get as close as you can to 0. Okay, start going back up. So 1.7 is as close as I got. And now you can see my actual course is very close to my projected course. It's not perfectly on, but it doesn't really need to be perfect in this instance. So what we can do is we're going to cancel this maneuver because we don't need it anymore. And as you can see, I have a perfect course plotted to the moon. This is my projected course, and if we waited till we got to here, we would be at a moon encounter, and we could set up another burn so that we could get captured by the moon and do our science or take a landing or whatever we needed to do. Back around Kerbin here, and I'm going to show you what to do with Minmus now. So first things first, we're going to grab Minmus and set it as our target. And this time we're going to pay attention to these two indicators right here, ascending node and descending node. That just indicates how far off from your current orbit the orbit of your target is. So as you can see, we're perfectly going horizontally like this, and Minmus is kind of cocked off to the side, where its apsis and the periapsis are kind of flung way out here off of the orbit of where we are. So what we need to do to accurately be able to plot an intercept is to match its kind of inclination off to the side. So what we're going to do is go to one of these nodes here, and we're going to add in a maneuver. And this time we don't need to fuss with the prograde and retrograde. We're going to fuss with the north to south indicators here. And if we pull it a little bit, you can see that our orbit is starting. The blue line is our current orbit, obviously. I just talked about that. And the dotted line is where we're going to be, and it is starting to cock off to the side, just like Minmus is. And now if we look at these indicators, you can see not 6.2 degrees off, it's 3.8 degrees off. So we need to move a little bit more. So pull this up a little bit. And now we're at 0.4. We can do better than that, though. And there. That looks good to me. 0.1. Let's see if I can get a little bit better. 0.1. Okay, we're gonna start with that. These little lines just kind of jut off from the ascending nodes, and you can actually, I just messed that up. You can use the scroll wheel on these to do minute adjustments, and I just messed it up a little bit. Let's get back to where we were. Make sure that's still at 0.1. Yeah, I was trying to scroll out, and I had the scroll wheel. I had my cursor over this, so I was scrolling on the retrograde indicator by accident. The dotted lines basically just show you where the ascending nodes and the descending nodes are on the target's course. So now we have a projected course that matches perfectly, or nearly perfectly, our target. So we need to actually do the burn. First things first, let's find our indicator, which is going to be over here. Again, the blue dot is always the direction you need to be pointing to accurately mimic your maneuver. Okay, we're almost there. And I neglected to do it before, but always find your maneuver indicator and get your spacecraft pointed in the right direction before you get to your node. Because it's really easy for me to flip this little tiny guy around, even without RCS thrusters on. I'll actually show you in here. He moves around really nice and smooth, and with the RCS thrusters on, he flips around even easier. But when you have a big honking spacecraft, sometimes it's really hard to get it to move in the correct direction. So always try to get pointed in the right direction before you get to your node. Otherwise, you might zoom past it while you're trying to point yourself in the correct direction. So we're going to wait till we're at T-0 seconds, and we're going to start our burn. And here we go. And now you can see the indicator, the bar starting to drop, and the indicator telling us how much speed we need to change is dropping as well. And our actual course is changing to match Minmus's. So we're going to wait till we get pretty close here, and let's cut our engines a little bit. And we're going to get very close. And, okay, we got pretty close. There we go. Now we can get rid of this maneuver. And we have a pretty good orbit to match Minmus's. It's not perfect. Our indicator started to drift a little, and I wasn't paying attention to it, but that's not a big deal. It is still almost perfect. We're still only at... I'm only 1/10 of a degree off from where I was shooting for. So there we go. Now we have an orbit to match Minmus's, and what we could do is do the same thing we did with the regular moon. We could just add in another maneuver, and we'd use the prograde indicator to shoot ourselves out into space and try to get ourselves a maneuver with Minmus. I'm not going to do that right now, just because it's basically the same concept as with the moon. Actually, maybe I could do it real quickly. Yep, there it is right there. That is an encounter with Minmus. So once you've got your orbit aligned, it's really, really easy to just use the regular prograde and retrograde indicators to plot yourself a course. So you just add in a lot of speed, drag this to a point where you get your closest approach really nice and even, like that, and you have yourself a plotted course. Okay, there is one more thing to show you. If we add in our maneuver here, you see we went over this indicator and this indicator, this indicator and this indicator. That is more speed, less speed, and that is basically cock to the north and cock to the south. You can actually use this to get yourself a completely polar orbit if you wanted to. Just keep going until you're going north to south instead of east to west, but we're not going to bother doing that. Sometimes getting a polar orbit could actually be really helpful. But what we're going to take a look at right now is just the little blue indicators. And the blue indicators I never use very much. I'm sure that there is a really, really good use for them, but I haven't found it yet. As you can see, if we pull this like this, it kind of pushes your orbit off to the side, one direction or another. Now, it is not going to maintain your altitude though. So, like, if you drag it like this, it will maintain your altitude at the node. But this one will not. If we keep dragging this off to the side, you can see I entered the atmosphere of Kerbin. So you got to be careful because, you know, at less than, on Kerbin at least, at less than 70,000 meters, you're going to start taking atmospheric drag and degrading your orbit. But that's just what these guys do. They just push your orbit from one side to the other, that is. And the only time I've ever really used it is when I was orbiting a foreign body. I was orbiting the moon, or I was orbiting Minmus, and I was trying to get an intercept with the planet Kerbin here, and I was low on fuel, so I only wanted to do one maneuver or one burn, and I used this to just tweak my orbit or my maneuver ever so slightly to get a better intercept with the planet here. That's the only time I've ever used it. So that is how you do a maneuver, and I'm gonna just reiterate one point, and that point I'm gonna reiterate here is because it took me a long time to figure it out, and it really, really was super helpful once I did it, is the dragging of the maneuver over your projected course, like this. That is just super, super helpful. I did not know you could do that at first, so I spent a lot of time, you know, I'd cancel and click and cancel and click and cancel and click. I know I told you that before, but it is really helpful because instead of having to replot a course, you just, like, if you didn't do it right over here, you just drag it around until you find a nice good intercept anywhere in this direction. Dragging around your maneuver around the projected course is just amazingly helpful. So that is that. That is how you do maneuvers. I hope this was beneficial for you. I hope I explained everything in a way that was easy to understand. If you have any other aspects of the game you would like to know how they work, maybe landing on the moon, or obtaining an orbit around Kerbin efficiently, or anything like that, you just let me know in the form of a comment down below. Don't forget to drop a like, and if you're interested in more Benjamin Magnus shows you how to do things in Kerbal Space Program, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time.